Welcome back, Hacker. This is a video on the background images challenge. So let's open up the background images challenge and let's get started. First things first is it says to go to commons.wikimedia.org so we can grab some images. So I'm going to open that up in a new tab so we have it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 sections with a header, a paragraph, and an image, and we're going to do some stuff with those. So first, let's start on that because it's just basic HTML and we got this. So I'm going to start with creating a section, in section. Then in there, I'm going to have a header and a paragraph. In this case, I'm going to use an H2 tag. Why not? So let's make sure I'm indented in. And a paragraph. All right, so there's 2 ways I can do this. I can either write it all out again, which I would say when you are starting it out, write it out. Another way you can do this is if I was actually doing this for a client, I would just simply copy and paste. Why? Because you're going to save a lot of time, and then also on top of that, you are going to make sure you're accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for the second one, but if you're starting out, you should definitely write it out. All right, so now we have our 3 sections. We have in it, we have a header, a paragraph. We also need to add images to these 3 sections and do some other items here. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go to this Wikimedia and I'm going to find an image of a smiley face. Because why not? Let's choose a new one. We've used so many of the same smiley face. Let's go with this GIF right here, that's little animation. I'm going to click on use for web. I'm going to grab the web file URL. I'm going to come back to my CodePen, and in here I am going to add in my images. So some review image src is that it means source, and then we're going to say alt smiley face like that. And then again, when you're starting it out, write it out just to get that repetition. Image src equals source. I'm going to place that in alt smiley face, and this is the self-closing tag. And then let's do it one more time. We've created images so many times now. We should start committing this to muscle memory. There you go. So let's do some cleanup first with this smiley face. You might have to do this as well. I'm going to just change all my images to see width, let's say 300 pixels, just so I can actually see it. Beautiful, right? Okay, so the next section is what we're going to do is we are going to change the colors and the fonts. I'm going to do that once I have the background color that I choose, and I want to have the margin with the margin 10 pixels on the bottom and then 0 for everything else for the paragraphs in these sections. So I'm going to say section and then paragraph margin. I have 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 10 pixels, 0 pixels, because I want it on the bottom. That is for the paragraphs. Then I have here, I have a header, we already have that, and the image I want a padding of 50 pixels, so I'm going to say section. Actually, I already have my image tag up here, so I'm going to say padding 50 pixels. All right, there we go. So now we have all of these items done, except for the color. All right, so first, using the background shorthand, have the color set for section set to black. Okay, and then we're going to add our image. Now, first things first is if I want to have multiple images, different images for each of these sections, one thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have different classes, right? So I'd have to have class like let's say city, escape, and then in this section, so that's my first section here. My second section, I want to have a different class. Let's say forest. These aren't the best class names, but they're just examples. And then the last one, let's have a class name of space. The reason why I have to have different classes is because for all of these, I want to have different images behind them. All right, so let's focus on this then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go section, and then I'm going to say cityscape. I could also, so I'm being very specific in this regards, or I can just use cityscape like this. And then I'm going to do background. I'm going to use the shorthand one. So the first thing that they asked for is to have the background color be black for all of these. So I'm going to say black. And then I'm just going to do the same exercise for the forest. Mustache brackets, background black, and space background black. Oops. All right, so in our last lesson, we talked about how this is actually a shorthand for all sorts of different things, basically all sorts of different properties. In this case, we have the background and then we have the black. The next item that we want to add is going to be our image that we're going to use as a background. So in this case, I'm talking about a cityscape. Again, this isn't the best naming structure, but it's to serve a purpose. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to image sizes, and again I want medium, and then I'm going to do cityscape, and I'm going to find an image that has a cityscape. So why don't I just grab this one here? It's the first one I see, and then I'm going to use this file, and I'm going to select this long link here. So then I will say URL, and then inside the URL I'm going to add my URL. So, all right, so there we go. So far so good. All right, let's take a look back at our requirements for this. So have the background set to repeat. Okay, so we can't really tell if it's repeating or not because it's a rather large image. So let's go ahead and let's choose a small one. Let's choose a small one. And let's choose, all of these might not be the best, but so maybe this one's the best one for now. Just want to see if I can get it to repeat. If not, I might have to change the image size so we can see it repeat. Actually, let's just do that instead. Let's change this image size. So I'm going to say background size, and let's go like 30 pixels. Whoa, there we go. Got a lot of repeating. So luckily for us, it already repeats by default. If I wanted to, again, change the repeating, I can go background repeat X, which is only going to do the x-axis, or Y, which is the y-axis. Or actually, the best way to do this would be to add it to our shorthand code, which is actually the next item here, which we're going to have that, or we just have repeat by default. We don't need to have anything. And then let's go ahead and that's going to be the offset. So we don't want to offset it all. So let's just go ahead and keep it like this. All right, very nice. So next one, have a second background and have it set to cover. So we're going to have this next one for the forest be set to cover. So in this case, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to medium. Why not? Then I'm going to search for forest. Let's find an image that looks kind of foresty to me. This one looks like a nice forest image, some moss on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this image. I'm going to grab it here. I'm going to go back to my pin, and then I'm going to use the shorthand. So I'm going to start with the URL, and in the quotation marks, I'm going to paste in that image here. All right, so it's already kind of covering for us, but we notice that it repeats as itself, right? So as I scroll out, it repeats, which is not what we want. We want it to actually cover that. So I'm going to say background size, cover. So here you can see as I scroll in and out over on this right hand side, over in this section here, it's covering. So just as a so notice over there it's covering, but if I were to change this again to not have this, now watch what happens as I scroll out. You'll see that it repeats itself. So the cover is stretching this image outward to have it cover the whole section. So as it does that though, it's going to become more pixelated, so that's why we want to have a larger image size. So I'm going to say background size, cover. And again, Scroll in and out. Very nice. All right. So the next one, have the third section have a background set to contain. Okay, so this one is going to be contain, and we are going to use space for this one, an outer space. So let's go here and let's go type in space. All right. I kind of like maybe this image here. Why not? All these swirling galaxies. Grab this file URL. Come back to my pin. Same exercise. URL. Place it in there. So now we have some outer space, but I want to change this background size to contain. So we have contain, which makes it smaller, right? So it's making sure that this image is taking up the whole space, or we can see the whole image. It's trying to make this image as large as possible so that we can see, but it's also repeating itself. So again, if we didn't want to have it repeat itself, we would say no repeat. And if we wanted to center align this back image, we could type in something like center, center. There you go. So it's in the center the whole time. So as we scroll down, there's a black box around it. You can't really see it because it's a dark background. And then as we scroll in, it maximizes its size. Once it gets too large, you'll notice over here that the image is sort of cut off right here. So there's some margin right here with this black in the image. Not actual margin because we didn't put that there, but it's just a visual margin. Okay, so now we have all of this, but we need to have our text be legible. So let's go ahead and let's in here then set our section paragraph to be something like back color white. That might be still hard to see. We can also do this for the header section. So actually, if we wanted to just set all the colors to white, we can come up here and we can find our section. Where is our section div? Do we have a section div? We do not. Okay, that's perfect. So we can come up above here. We can add a new one, section, and color white. So normally when you're doing, and this one is going to be very hard to see at the beginning. Now normally when you're setting up your CSS, what you want to do is on the top you want to have the parent. So in this case we have the parent, and then we have the more specific items underneath it. So we have parent as being the first section in our CSS, then underneath that we have section P, so it's building off of it. To make this even nicer, if we wanted to be very specific and make sure that we didn't have a cityscape, let's say on a different page on a paragraph or something, we can throw in this specific right here. Okay, and the reason why we would do something like that is without it, let me go down here and let's create a paragraph of test. So here I have a paragraph at the very bottom that says test space class. So if I am here and I type in class equals space, nothing happens, right? Nothing is changing because it's not set to paragraph. If I change this to paragraph, this top one's going to break, and then we're going to have our little galaxy on the bottom here. Or I can remove it completely and just have the space, but now you'll notice that it's applying the same styling to the bottom and the top. So if I want to make sure that I'm being very specific and I don't accidentally have the same coloring, because maybe this is space means something else in this regards in a paragraph, then I want to be more specific with my selector in CSS. Awesome, so that's it. Thank you for sticking with this. Please share your creations. I'd love to see them in the comments below. Love to take a look at your code. And remember, as always, keep moving forward. Coding is not that hard. You got this, and I'll see you in the next lesson.